Hi, my name is Jessica Nelson, and this is the Mental Health OT podcast. Today, our episode is going to be a little bit different. Instead of bringing someone on to interview, I'm actually just going to be speaking to you guys first about my interest in OT and why I decided to become an OT, as well as why I decided to create a podcast. I also am planning on speaking on what our scope is as a profession and trying to break it down in hopes that people listening to the podcast, whether it be physicians or whether it be potential clients, can better identify if they believe that they can be helped by an occupational therapist. In saying that, I think that a huge issue with our profession is we're underutilized. And that's just because, as you have probably heard as a reoccurring theme in the past 3 episodes, people don't know what we do. So I think that it starts with education. It starts with occupational therapists going out in the community, using their social media, utilizing any avenue basically to explain to people who aren't well versed in occupational therapy, and showing them, hey, this is what we can help you with, and this is our scope, and this is what you do to get referred. So, in doing that, hopefully more referrals are generated and occupational therapists can have a wider reach and just help as many people as they can, because this profession is really awesome and we can do a lot of good, whether it be one-to-one, whether it be in the community. It's just understanding how we can be utilized and then people taking advantage of that. In speaking on my background, I actually didn't necessarily plan on being an occupational therapist at first. My original plan was actually to be a college softball coach. I grew up playing softball since I was 5 years old. I went to college to play softball, and yeah, it was something that I fell in love with. I was very passionate about. It was very much a part of who I was, and something I associated my identity with a lot. So it just made sense to me that after graduating college, that I would then transition to becoming a coach. And that's what I did. I started my coaching at a small community college in Liberal, Kansas. It didn't take me long to figure out that that probably wasn't the right career path for me. For many different reasons. But I think that the one thing that motivated me the most to change my career path was my friend had a very, very serious accident and it completely altered her life. In seeing something like that, I was able to be introduced to occupational therapy. Um, and the more I read about it and the more I learned about it, the more I fell in love with the profession. I realized how valuable this profession is. And it's a shame that it's not more well known. So, in saying that, I quit my coaching job and I started taking the necessary classes to get into occupational therapy school. I moved from Kansas to Lincoln, Nebraska, where I worked as a therapy technician for a year, and I got into the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas, and that is where I completed my doctorate in occupational therapy. Those 3 years were some of the best years of my life. I met the best people. I learned so much about occupational therapy, about the healthcare system in general, and honestly, just so much about myself. Um, yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm so fortunate to have had the education I have had, and now to use it to advocate and to provide really meaningful and holistic care to the patients or the clients I am able to treat. So currently, I am living in Washington and I am working at a state psychiatric facility. There's three criteria that they have to meet in order to be admitted where I work, and that is gravely disabled, danger to self, or danger to others. So within that, right, we have a population where it's adults. They have a mental health illness, whether it be bipolar disorder, whether it be schizophrenia, schizoaffective, major depression. Really, there's quite a lot that we see. Majority, I would say, is schizophrenia. But yeah, so they're here. They have pretty complicated backgrounds. They are court ordered to be there. So majority of the people there don't want to be there, right? So it's, to say the least, a complex population. And just coming in, working with that population straight out of school, it was intimidating, to say the least, right? And I feel like as soon as I got there, I just felt like I knew this much, and like I need to know so much more, to be able to provide meaningful services to this population. And I just felt like I wasn't sure where to get the information. I wasn't sure where to start. My goal in all of this is really to, one, for me to learn and to become a better practitioner, especially coming into my first job at a state psychiatric facility with a incredibly complex population. I just wanted to feel like I was doing my part in learning and in developing my skills and developing my knowledge. And what better way to do it than to talk to professionals around the nation? I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot from where I work, and I've learned a lot from just, yeah, starting this podcast. This is my fourth episode. I've done 3 episodes, and from the 3 individuals I've spoken to already, I just feel so much more rich in knowledge and understanding, and more rooted in the profession, more specifically to how we can serve individuals in a mental health type way. So yeah, really like just enhancing my skills, and then through that to advocacy in me learning what we can do. I hope to also expand um, the knowledge of other people listening to this podcast and what we can do, whether that be occupational therapists listening and realizing, hey, I can do this and I don't have to be pigeonholed into what society or certain healthcare systems see occupational therapists as. Also, advocacy for patients or potential clients, in recognizing maybe occupational therapy is right for me, and this is what an occupational therapist can do in my life to help. And also for doctors, right? Physicians oftentimes are the people who we need referrals from in order for you to get your occupational therapy covered via insurance. So if a doctor doesn't understand what we do, that could be a huge barrier to you receiving the care that you need or you want, or that can benefit you the most. So, yes, advocacy and exposure, increasing my skill, all of those reasons are why I decided to build this podcast. So, before I go into talking about our scope specifically, I want to tell y'all a little story through my own personal experience as to why I think it is so important for not only patients or potential clients to know how occupational therapy can help them, but also why it's so important for physicians to understand. So, this happened, I think, my first or second year in occupational therapy school. My parents had just sold their house and were looking to buy a new house, but within that time, they rented an apartment, and they rented an apartment on a 3rd floor. And in saying that, my mother has pretty significant chronic pain. And so climbing up the stairs to the third floor every single day was really taxing for her. And it affected her ability to participate in a lot of everyday activities. I think it limited her ability to spend time with family. It limited her ability to um, take care of her dogs the way that she wanted to. And just overall quality of life decreased because she was just in so much pain. And climbing up those stairs every day exacerbated that pain. I was home from OT school at that time. I think it was summer or something like that. And I decided I wanted to go to her primary care physician with her. And so I went to her appointment and I was sitting in there and I was telling her, hey, I think that an occupational therapist would really help you in figuring out alternative ways to address your chronic pain, whether it be changing your environment, whether it be um, looking at alternatives. Maybe they could figure out ways to move you to a first floor, just something to address the pain and figure out ways in which she could be more functional and live a more full life. And I also said, I think that physical therapy would probably be beneficial as well because um, occupational therapists and physical therapists work pretty closely together. And yeah, I think that interdisciplinary teams are really important. And if they could take on the part of maybe strengthening her legs or working on better balance, an occupational therapist could target perhaps something different, like the environmental factors, and working on energy conservation and creating different times of day where she utilizes the stairs. There's a bunch that could be done, and it's hard to give examples when you don't have a client right in front of you because the interventions are so personalized and so specific to their needs. So as we're in the doctor's office, the doctor comes in and my mom is saying, oh, like, this is my daughter. She's in occupational therapy school. I am experiencing a lot of pain throughout my body. A factor of that is our change in living. And I think that it would be beneficial for me to see OT as well as PT. And the physician at that time said, well, physical therapy definitely does make sense. They could work on strengthening and mobility. He's like, but I don't think that it's necessary for you to see an occupational therapist. And I interjected a little bit and I said, well, she is clearly having issues with participating in things that are important to her. And so I think that that definitely falls under our scope. And I think that there could be a lot of benefit to her seeing an occupational therapist. And I was shut down really quickly. And his reasons were, well, it would be hard for it to be approved through insurance. And I don't think that an occupational therapist would be necessary in this case. And I think me being as young as I was in occupational therapy school and just having this natural trust that physicians must know everything and just putting my trust into that, I backed off and said, okay. But I think looking back at it now, he didn't realize what occupational therapists could do. And I think that I allowed him to convince me what my profession was and was not able to do, which is unfortunate. So, for all of you out there who just graduated with your MD from UTMB, who are going to be primary care physicians, pay close attention because this will be beneficial for you all and a learning experience. It is important to understand occupational therapy's scope and to not gaslight an occupational therapy student into thinking that something is not their scope when it clearly is. So, with that being said, my mom did not get occupational therapy. She got some physical therapy. It helped out minimally. But yes, her issues prevailed, and a lot of times with chronic pain, I mean, it's chronic, and so you're not necessarily going to fix it. There's just ways that you could make it better. And there's only so much you can do from a strengthening and mobility and stamina standpoint, which is why I thought it was so appropriate for her to be referred to occupational therapy. So first I'm going to talk about like the overarching activities that we do address as occupational therapists. So occupations are things in everyday life that we do. It's very broad. So we have ADLs, which are activities of daily living, and that's going to be like your personal self-care activities. So whether that be hygiene, toileting, bathing, feeding, even sexual activity. So all of those things that you take part in, that is taking care of yourself. The next is going to be IADLs, which are instrumental activities of daily living. And that is going to be like, let's say, meal prep. That's going to be managing a budget. That's going to be community transportation. That's going to be caring for others, caring for your pets. Just doing laundry, a bunch of things I would say that you have to be able to do to maintain like a household. Next is going to be health and management. So that's a pretty broad topic, and that's going to look very different depending on your needs and your deficits. So that could be establishing a routine that supports better overall wellness. That could be improving communication with the rest of your healthcare team. That could be establishing an exercise program that it works for you and is realistic for you. It could also be strategies for managing your symptoms and managing your condition, if it's like a chronic condition or acute condition, just teaching specific skills to manage that, as well as medication management. So let's say you have deficits in memory, and so you can't remember to take your medication. We could order weekly pill boxes, or we could set alarms, or we could try to adapt the environment by having maybe specific notes or setting your pills out by your toothbrush in the morning, just making different adaptations to help with whatever deficit that you're facing. Next is going to be rest or sleep. So even sleep is an occupation. Sleep is so important to everything that we do. If we don't get the proper rest or we don't get the proper sleep, then it's pretty hard to engage in anything else. So depending on what our diagnosis is and what the symptoms of that diagnosis is, that can impact our sleep and our rest, which can impact our life in major ways. So working with our clients to develop a routine and strategies that help promote better sleep and better quality rest falls under our. Next is going to be education. So whether we are involved in formal education or informal education, sometimes there's barriers to either the environment or to our own personal skills or abilities that allow us to fully participate in that. And so again, I know that this is so broad, but until we are faced with a specific client with their specific deficits and capabilities and barriers, it's really hard to give concrete examples. The next occupation is going to be work. Work is going to be, it could be volunteer work, or it could be actual work that you're getting compensated for, and just how to better promote your participation in. So whether you're struggling with like building a resume, searching for a job, maybe you don't have adequate skills to get a job. Maybe you need to enhance your interview skills. All of those things are under occupational therapy's scope. And those things can be affected sometimes due to specific symptoms of certain diagnoses. So for me, I really think of like mental health diagnoses. Let's say that you have major depression. And symptoms of major depression are lack of motivation, decreased energy. All of those things can definitely impact your work, right? And so working to get an individual who has those symptoms and figuring out, okay, well, what can we do? What are you willing to do? What aligns with your personal beliefs and your specific job needs that support change and promoting your participation in this? So whether that be creating a schedule that works better, maybe that be advocating for certain adjustments within the workplace. So maybe you can work from home 2 out of the 5 days a week. Maybe we can change the environment in which you work. Maybe we can bring in more natural light. Maybe we can bring in more plants to enhance just the overall the environment to support wellness and mental health, which does sound silly, but I would say that little things do matter. And any little adjustment and any little intervention does support overall wellness and overall function. So next is going to be play and leisure. Play and leisure can look like a lot of different things to different people, just depending on interests and age. So for me, an example would be I enjoy engaging in photography. My leisure could also be engaging in creating this podcast, playing sand volleyball. Yeah. So different things that we enjoy doing that just bring more quality of life overall and more well. And then lastly is going to be social participation. So whether that be you're struggling with let's say participating in specific things in the community, or engaging with your family, engaging with your friends, or you're having issues in like your intimate relationship. A lot of mental health diagnoses, a symptom that we see is self-isolation. And that's not always a problem, especially if you're the type of person, you're more introverted and you enjoy it. But I think it becomes a problem whenever it starts affecting like your overall well-being, and when you want to engage with other people and you just feel like you're struggling with that. So yeah, occupational therapists can support all of these. Every occupation falls under one of these broader ideas and broader domains. And so, in order for us to promote participation in these occupations, we look at the person and we look at the context and we look at the occupation itself. So, in thinking, how can we develop skills within this person? Whether it be like cognitive skills, whether it be physical skills, so increasing physical factors, strength, endurance, range of motion, focusing on different cognitive skills, memory, processing, sustained attention, or even, right, focusing on increasing social skills. So, how can we be better communicators? How can we connect better with other people if that's something that's important to you? And if those personal skills or personal factors are kind of set and we maybe won't see as much give in that area, let's look at the occupation or let's look at the environment. What can we change in the environment to make it more inclusive for this individual to participate and engage in occupations? Or how can we adapt or change or modify the specifics of this occupation so that they can engage in it more successfully? And so, yeah, we definitely take a holistic approach. We look at what's important to the individual. What do they want to engage in that they might not be able to engage in right now? And then we look at, well, why can't they engage in this? And what of these three domains can be changed so that they can participate in the things that are important to them? Yeah, so overall, our goal as occupational therapists is to increase overall wellness and quality of life in individuals, because occupations, the things we do, are really what make life worth living. And I really believe that, and I really stand by this profession. So, in saying all of this, I think that if my mother's PCP did realize that, and they did realize that my mom clearly did have an issue with participating in activities in her life that she truly cares about and that bring meaning to her life. it would have been so clear that occupational therapy is absolutely 100% an appropriate referral. And whether she was able to get an OT to come to her home, or even if she went to outpatient OT, I think they could have done a lot working with her, whether it be providing education, whether it be changing certain routines that she did in her life, or whether it be walking her through certain laws or certain things she's entitled to, maybe like a first floor apartment, legally with her condition. There's just so many things. And I would feel comfortable within the scope of OT working with anyone with any diagnosis, because I'm not working to treat that diagnosis per se. I'm working on supporting this individual in engaging in the occupation that they want to engage in. So whether, as I said, that be changing the environment, changing the occupation, or changing their personal skills, I can ask questions and I can see what is limiting them, and then I can help build that bridge to them being able to develop the skills to then engage in whatever it is they want to engage in. So, in receiving occupational therapy care, there are two things to consider: whether you are someone prescribing or referring someone to occupational therapy, or if you are a potential client thinking you might benefit from occupational therapy. And that is direct access laws, depending on what state you're in, and also insurance requirements, which are individual to the specific insurance that you have. So, direct access is an occupational therapist's ability to see you without a referral. There are different laws depending on what state you're in with direct access. So, for example, I live in Washington right now. So, the direct access law for Washington is you do not need a referral from a physician for an evaluation by an occupational therapist, but to engage in treatment by an occupational therapist, you would need a referral from a physician. In Texas, it's a little bit different, and I'm giving Texas as an example because that's where my family is and most of my friends. So probably the majority of people watching this do live in Texas. So, what I found out via Google on the Texas Occupational Therapy Association website is that all medical professionals, or all licensed medical professionals, can make a referral to occupational therapy. So that would be professionals, early intervention, schools, work sites, etc. The caveat being that there are no acute symptoms or active medical conditions currently. It's always important to know the direct access laws in the state you live, especially for your profession, just so you can better advocate for your clients and better help direct them in getting a referral for your treatment. So the other thing is insurance requirements. And yeah, where I work specifically at a hospital and inpatient setting, occupational therapy is a bundled service. So we don't really have to worry about going through insurance, because basically a lump sum of money is provided, and occupational therapy is just within that lump sum. But for other settings like outpatient, private practices, the insurance requirements are going to be a lot more important. And honestly, I didn't really know my insurance requirements. But what I did, and what I encourage all of you guys to do, is to just Google the insurance that you have and just say insurance requirements, insert name of insurance, for occupational therapy services. So, for example, I have Kaiser, and I just Googled that, and these were the requirements that came up. So, in order for an evaluation from an occupational therapist to be covered by my insurance, first off, it would need to be referred by a physician. So, that would be someone with an MD, someone with a DO, a nurse practitioner, or a physician's assistant. The next criteria is a little bit more specific, and that is the condition. So it would need acute, subacute, neurodevelopmental, an acute exacerbation of a chronic condition, or a function limiting chronic condition. And the last criteria for my personal insurance would be expected to show improvement as a result of the service provided. So the requirements for evaluation and then getting approved for actual treatment are a little bit different. First being that the provided services are specific to occupational therapy. So that being the services that are being provided to you are skilled, and occupational therapists are the best ones to be administering that treatment. The next just being details about the plan of care. So making sure that a diagnosis is in there, a comprehensive treatment plan, identified impairment, as well as potential for achievement in the therapy sessions. And the next criteria being that the therapy treatment provided is not duplicated by another profession. This makes sense to me because whenever we're talking about different therapies, so whether it be speech and language pathology, occupational therapy, physical therapy, mental health counseling, a lot of overlap is involved with it. So just specifying that you're getting this treatment from this clinician and you're not double dipping, I would say. So with that being said, I've thought a lot about the story that I've mentioned with my mother, and yeah, I am just even more affirmed that she definitely was an appropriate client for occupational therapy. And I think we as occupational therapists have to be confident that we know our scope, we know what we can do, and we know the criteria for getting them referred to occupational therapy. And I think that's what I was lacking as a student is I was still learning about our scope. I wasn't really sure regarding the laws with referrals and the requirements with referrals. But yeah, that's why I just think it's so important because whenever we are trying to advocate and we are met with pushback, we then have the facts to challenge that, which is important because our profession is important and there's a place for our profession. And there's a much larger place for our profession than what is currently being utilized in healthcare, I believe. So, a lot of the information I talked about today, I definitely wouldn't say I'm an expert in, and I'm definitely still learning. And that's okay. But I do think it's important for us to work towards knowing and understanding this information, whether, as I said, it be occupational therapy practitioners, whether it be clients, or whether it be physicians, because we're all a part of that healthcare team, that interdisciplinary team to provide our services and to help our clients. And we all have a different role in helping our clients. And we need to understand those roles and we need to be able to advocate for them and decide when it's appropriate and utilize the resources that we have. And whenever we don't understand the resources that we have, they are underutilized and then we're not providing the best care for our patients. And I hope that if there's anything that I could say to everyone out there, because at one point or another, we're all going to be the client. We all have to go to the doctor sometimes. So, even for myself, something invaluable that I have learned is I'm in charge of my healthcare. And yes, although doctors are very educated, they go to school for 4 years and then they do residency. They might be an expert in their field, but they're not an expert on who you are and what you need. And I mean, that goes for all of us in healthcare, whether you are an MD, whether you are an occupational therapist, whether you're a physical therapist, whether you're a speech and language pathologist. The client is the expert on what they need. And I think that if we as practitioners can listen more, we would provide such better care. So, yeah, in saying that, I think it's important for clients to understand that whether it be doctors or OTs or anything else, they are providing a service to you and you are in charge of your treatment. So ask questions. If you don't understand what a certain medication is doing to help you, if you don't understand what a certain treatment is targeting, ask. And if you don't agree with it, then you can say you don't want it. And if you don't understand it, even though you did ask again and ask again and ask again and do your own research until you do understand it. Because that is another thing that I think is a big problem in healthcare is um, we as practitioners might do things that we deem are important for our clients, but then we don't provide that necessary education and explanation as to like why we're providing this or why we think it's important. Um, so yeah, just increasing that piece I think is 100% helpful in providing better care. And then speaking to the physicians out there, it's your job as a physician to manage the healthcare of your clients. And so when you don't understand the scope of other professions, you are limiting the healthcare that they have access to. And I don't think that that's best practice. I think it's important for everyone to understand what each profession can do to make sure that people don't fall through the cracks and make sure that they're getting the care that they need and utilizing all the resources that they have available. So I do hope that for the medical doctors listening, that you are able to better understand occupational therapy's role in providing care for your clients. And next time they are seeing you and they're complaining about certain things that they can't participate in, you say, hey, I think that you would be a great candidate for occupational therapy because that's what we do. And if we're here to be utilized, like you should be utilizing us, right? Um, we are all a team and we all have different strengths and different specialties. And the more that we can understand the different strengths and specialties of each other, the better care that we are going to be able to provide. Again, I am not an expert. I haven't even been practicing occupational therapy for a year, but I do know some things and I have pretty strong opinions on this, and I'm just really passionate about patients having more autonomy in the healthcare that they receive and understanding that they don't just have to accept anything, and that they have a say in their treatment. And then, as well as physicians, understanding how we can help your client. And I hope that my friends listening who just graduated and are finally doctors or who graduated a while ago don't take offense to what I'm saying. I really just want this to be an open dialogue where I'm honest about what I see and what I think needs improved in our healthcare. And I think that as far as all of the people I know who did go to school and got their MD, what's most important is providing quality care to their patients. And this is one avenue in which we can achieve that. It's not me lecturing you, it's just me letting you know a little bit more about what our scope is and encouraging you to utilize us more and refer to us more because we can help your client have a better outcome and we can help increase their quality of life. And we can do a lot of things that maybe a physician would like to do, but are limited due to time restraints or anything else. So that is all I have. If anyone has any questions or comments, I am always open to feedback. I'm always open to dialogue, discussion. And yeah, everybody have a good day. Thank you for listening. And I will see you in 2 weeks with my 5th episode.